Okay, so this week we're going to get into shoulder pain and exactly how to fix it, and we're going to get behind and into the real reason why the traditional things you might have been recommended or done before haven't actually fixed your shoulder pain. I've actually had this problem myself in my right shoulder here, where if I stretch for something, reach for something, lifting weights, especially doing anything in overhead pressing kind of positions, there was a kind of a pinching, a pain there. You know exactly what I'm talking about here, where it's not stopping me, but it's preventing me from achieving full range of motion. It's off-putting as you're trying to exercise because then you can't push yourself as hard. And it's also painful in your day-to-day life when you reach for something and you get that twinge and that pain shoots through. It's horrible. And so we're going to get through in this video exactly how I address the actual root cause and not maybe the root cause you've been recommended or misrecommended before, and then how that actually solved that pain to where now I don't have any pain in my shoulder and I have full range of motion and strength in it and everything else. Okay, so the first thing we need to address, the first thing we need to think about is what is the actual root cause of this problem. And when you drill down to it, you need to start thinking about your positioning of your scapula on your rib cage. Now, this is really important because we're drifting away already from the shoulder here, because you need to think about how the scapula right here is positioning on that rib cage. The rib cage is curved, and so the scapula needs to sit curved above it so it can glide and move in direction and not be compressed. It's more often than not you see compression in that scapula right there. You see the compression in and down towards the spine, where you see a lot of restriction, which then restricts the rib cage itself. These are all compensations that your body's done for various reasons, which we're about to get into, but these compensations mean that there's restriction in the movement, that gliding, and the rib cage needs to sit, the scapula needs to sit on the rib cage. They both need to sit to each other to get full range of motion. And this is one of the root causes that we're talking about here, and to limit that pain and gain back that range of motion. One of the best ways to address any kind of poor movement in the scapula is going to be looking at your breathing mechanics. Why? Because the rib cage is in and of itself a breathing mechanic. It's bones, it's ligaments, it's muscle that moves to keep you breathing. If these things are misaligned and aren't connected properly, as you often hear, everything's connected in the body, then this can lead to pains further down the line, which may manifest as shoulder pain. In my case, this was exactly that. If you're not addressing how you're breathing, then it's hard to fix this. Because you've got to really think about here is when we breathe, the most room we've got to breathe into is at the back of the rib cage. So when we're breathing, we're getting that 360 degrees of breathing. We're breathing into the back, and the back's expanding outwards. Now, if we can't expand outwards with the rib cage because things are in the way, i.e. the scapula's in the wrong place and not gliding over the rib cage and preventing it from expanding outwards, what you end up is what you're looking at right here, is you end up with some postural changes where your body then will compensate by tilting things like the hips forward and bringing the rib cage up at the bottom, so you get what's called rib flare. And this means that the body can breathe into the front cavity a lot more, down into that belly a lot more. Sometimes this is where you get that extended belly, is because you can't breathe into the back of the rib cage. Your body's finding a compensation mechanism by opening up the front more, which leads to this tilting and this change in posture. Behind me here, I'm going to show you 3 exercises that are a generalization. So obviously the thing to consider here when we're talking in generalizational terms is that these exercises aren't going to be the best for every single person watching this video. Some people are going to work better than others. But when we coach, when I do one-to-one coaching, we obviously assess everything and then we address the problem so we can get more specific exercises that are variations from the ones you're seeing right here behind me. Or it might be the ones themselves, depending on those results of when we're looking at shoulder flexion and the shoulder and joints and everything else. We don't have time to get into exactly how these exercises work. This is a brief, this is what they look like. If you want the stills, the frames from these shots, I can send you these images. Just comment me down below and I'll figure out a way to get them to you. But these are a generalization of a way to do it. Some of these exercises I used myself to improve my shoulder pain and reduce that pain and get that mobility back as well. For me personally, when I addressed my shoulder pain, I used some similar exercises to the ones you've just seen. I also used some different ones. As you can see right behind me, this was my progress over 3 weeks. I used assessment techniques, the tools I use to assess my clients and myself, assess the results. Therefore, wrote myself a program, and as you can see, the progress here over 3 weeks. Now, it's not I wasn't in an amazing misalignment, some poor posture before or poor breathing, but I did have shoulder pain. And as you can see, by the time we get to the third slide here, the third image of me here, the shoulder pain was gone. And this was 3 weeks, and I was doing the prescribed exercises 2 to 3 times a week, and doing them obviously verbatim. I coach them all the time, so I know what I should be feeling, I know what I should be seeing, and so I would then, after every week, would assess again and either change the exercises up or do more or less or more or others so that I could get the results. And as you can see here, there is progression over that time. And for most people, probably in a similar boat to me, you don't look horrendously, hunchback of Notre Dame, and you don't look super straight up, like suit man of banker. I'm trying to think of a person that's super straight and not bent at all, but you get what I'm trying to say here, that these are extremes, and we don't often see these extremes. They do obviously happen, they are outliers, they do happen, but these are extremes. What you see is mostly my kind of posture here, like where you might be okay, but there is pain there. Or maybe you have poor breathing, which is often something we coach when we're coaching athletes, is athletic posture can be horrendous. And we address this in the terms of assessing this for breathing mechanics. Obviously, breathing improves, and therefore performance can improve because we reduce things like fatigue, lactic acid buildup. We have more repeated sprintability, better recovery, better nervous system control, etc., etc. And this is all through the stuff we've just been talking about, addressing the root cause. Okay, so I think I've got everything in there that I really wanted to say on this subject in terms of how, when we're looking at shoulder pain, it's not necessarily the shoulder we need to be looking at, but the things connecting to it. And a little bit about my experience with shoulder pain and how I solved it for myself, and some exercises in there. And we obviously talked about the root causes that I think is the true thing you need to be addressing. That probably most things you're getting recommended stuff or exercises or PT work, stuff like that, that they aren't recommending, and therefore you aren't seeing the results. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope the video is in depth enough. If not, we can get more in depth in it. I'm happy to talk in the comments about this in even more detail if you need it. Like I said before, if you want the slides for those exercises, then just I'll figure out a way to get them to you, but let me know in the comments if you want them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Before you go, please do consider giving it a like, and a share. Make sure to subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing, but means the world to me if you subscribe to this channel, as this is something I really enjoy doing and presenting to you guys. The work that I do with my clients, my private clients, when I'm not here on YouTube, but also it's just a great way for me to keep drilling that information into myself for when I do get asked the questions about how this stuff works and how best we can affect athletic performance through addressing breathing as a cornerstone of that. So yeah, hope you're all like that. Cool. Subscribe, all that good stuff. See you in the comments.